This week's entry isn't actually a Saturday morning cartoon, since it mostly aired during the week and not specifically on Saturday mornings. And yes, I do make that distinction, unlike a lot of journalists, essayists, and other writers of this kind of pop culture detritus. But I included it because it's a big monster cartoon touchstone for a lot of Gen Xers, and as I've gone back over my output on this channel, I'm starting to realize that these essays are kind of taking shape as a sort of archive of Generation X and early millennial nostalgia. So, what the hell? In 1984, the fledgling Nickelodeon cable channel licensed and aired its first animated series, Danger Mouse, a British production from the sadly now defunct Cosgrove Hall Films. For comparison, Cosgrove Hall is to British kids in the 70s and 80s that Hanna-Barbera is to American kids at the same time. Danger Mouse was a comedy adventure show revolving around the world's greatest secret agent, the eponymous Danger Mouse, and his perpetually terrified sidekick Penfold as they battled a variety of silly ne'er-do-wells in their increasingly absurd plots to take over or destroy the world. Most of these were the work of criminal mastermind Baron Silas Greenback, the world's most evil toad, but over the course of the series, other villains were introduced, including Count Duckula, an egomaniacal vampire duck with an obsession with becoming the world's most famous TV star. He would be a recurring nemesis for Danger Mouse throughout the series.
Alas, poor Yorick! I knew him well, Horatio! Was that not brilliant?
The show was a massive hit on Nickelodeon, becoming its second most popular program after the Canadian import You Can't Do That on Television. However, nothing lasts forever, and in 1987, production was suspended on Danger Mouse, and when Nickelodeon made the call to stop rerunning the show, they actually made a kind of a big deal about it.
The First Kids Network.
Bye, Danger Mouse.
Goodbye, Rated K.
Bye, Danger Mouse. Danger Mouse. I'm really gonna miss you.
Goodbye, Mark, and good luck to the new guy. Goodbye, Lassie, old friend.
Bye, Danger Mouse.
By the way, where are you going? I don't know.
Goodbye, Danger Mouse, and good luck. Nickelodeon salutes you.
Goodbye, Nickelodeon. I'll miss you.
The show would come back briefly for 2 more seasons in 1991, and Nickelodeon did give it a revival from 1991 to 1994. But during that 6-year gap, a new project had begun. According to several sources, including Brian Cosgrove himself, then Nickelodeon executive Jerry Laybourne was visiting the Cosgrove Hall offices to discuss co-developing a show with them. She saw a drawing of Count Duckula from one of the Danger Mouse episodes and reportedly said, "That's the one I want." So, from 1988 to 1993, Cosgrove Hall proceeded to unleash the ridiculously absurd but extremely hilarious misadventures of Count Duckula onto the world. Duckula himself was redesigned for a less villainous appearance in keeping with the show's basic concept. The various Count Duckulas... Counts Duckula? Counts Duckulas? Anyway, they're all basically incarnations of each other, although each one has their own personality and obsessions with one basic thing in common. They're all evil, blood-sucking monsters. And while they've all fallen to the usual vampire weaknesses, the Count can be reincarnated through a rite that can be performed once a century when the moon is in the 8th house of Aquarius. Until...
The latest reincarnation did not run according to plan.
Due to the substitution of ketchup for blood in the latest version of the ritual, the current Count Duckula is a vegetarian, has zero interest in blood-sucking or evil in general, and is more concerned with being rich and famous than being feared and worshipped. This is all to the disappointment and horror of Igor, the long-time and long-suffering majordomo of the Duckula line. It's implied throughout the series that Igor has been around for at least 800 years, and may in fact be responsible for the first Count Duckula becoming a vampire in the first place. Igor is fully committed to the cause of evil, and is not happy that the current Duckula doesn't have any interest in terrorizing the common folk, bending others to his will, or sucking the blood from various village maidens. As a result, quite a few episodes are dedicated to Igor attempting to convert Duckula to the cause of evil. He always fails.
You know I'm a vegetarian.
Oh, sir. Just try it, sir. And we'll have you sinking your teeth into village maidens before you can say Bella Lugosi.
And then there's Nanny, Duckula's other faithful servant. Dear, sweet, perpetually confused and clueless Nanny, who often makes whatever situation the three of them are in worse, but just as often her befuddlement winds up solving the exact same problems.
I do wish you wouldn't do that, Nanny.
Not half as much as I do. Last time you killed 3 chambermaids and a footman.
Oh, they was only part-time, sir. And the little blonde one never just hit the picture rail.
These three make up our main cast, although there are some recurring characters. Primarily Dr. Von Goosewing, because if you have a show where your main character is a vegetarian vampire, you need a perpetually perplexed vampire hunter to cause problems for him. And just as Duckula is a terrible vampire, Von Goosewing is a terrible vampire hunter, getting injured by his own crackpot devices and attempts to kill Duckula. And often, in addition to not realizing Duckula is harmless, he doesn't even realize he is talking to Duckula until someone mentions his name. Von Goosewing apparently has an assistant named Heinrich who he always calls for, but we never actually see Heinrich or hear him, which has led some to theorize that Heinrich doesn't actually exist and is basically Von Goosewing's imaginary friend. The final major aspect of the series is Castle Duckula itself. By entering what fans have termed the disco coffin in the lower levels of the castle and stating where he wants to go, Duckula and anyone in the castle can travel anywhere in the world. However, there is a time limit involved. When dawn breaks in Transylvania, the castle will automatically return home, leaving anyone who is still outside behind and taking anyone inside back with it, whether they want to go to Transylvania or not. Duckula has been on the receiving end of both situations.
Please, I beg you, allow me just a few moments in which to compose myself. No, please, no!
It's unclear exactly how the castle is able to travel from place to place, but the castle's cuckoo clock seems to be a required component of it, as one episode caused the castle to become immobile when the clock was removed. However, the show is really not that concerned with its own lore all that much.
I don't want to hear about my 4 bears, my 3 bears, Goldilocks, or anything else in this rotten, dreary hole.
Oh sure, there are episodes that delve into the history of the Duckula line, sometimes literally, or episodes where we meet other offshoots of the family, all of whom are vicious blood-sucking monsters, and Duckula takes great pains to prevent them from finding out he's a vegetarian. But by and large, a typical episode involves either Duckula trying for fame and wealth, Igor trying to get him to behave like a proper Duckula, Von Goosewing showing up for his latest attempt to vanquish his annoyed adversary, or the main cast taking a trip somewhere and encountering a situation or villain that needs to be dealt with. Or often, a combination of all of these. Because the show is not really concerned with plot. In fact, the best way to think of it is like a series of character-driven cartoons like the original Looney Tunes or Mickey and Pal's Disney shorts. Each episode is largely self-contained and callbacks are few and far between. Hell, continuity is so unimportant that the pilot episode on Real Estate wasn't even aired as part of the series until its 3rd season. You can just pick any of the 65 episodes and jump right in and you won't be lost in the slightest. Parodies are rife in this show, and it takes full advantage of both the popular and the obscure. Aside from the obvious Dracula spoof, everything from the Phantom of the Opera to Agatha Christie gets shoved through the bird-shaped comedy filter the show runs on. And even then, some downright obscure but brilliant choices are made. I mean, have you ever seen a kid's cartoon parody The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari before?
No. But what do I have as a subject? That is zombie. A zombie who has slept for over 100 years and who has the most boring, the most tedious, the most. Thank you, Pinky. Yes, the most stupid dreams anyone could dream of.
However, keep in mind that this is an animated TV show made in Britain, and those tend to have a reputation for being just as cheap, if not cheaper, in terms of production than a lot of their American contemporaries. But the contrast in cost-cutting is fascinating. While some of the usual suspects are here, recycled animation, eyeballs in the dark, and so on, there are a couple of unique methods that Cosgrove Hall uses to keep things interesting. For example, a lot of times, backgrounds and sets aren't fully painted. Instead, large blotches of color are used with the details of the background drawn over them. Sometimes you hear one character speaking, but the shot is of the character being spoken to just standing there. But the really smart way that Count Duckula manages to offset its budgetary concerns is through its writing. Every 22-minute episode is packed to the brim with gags, puns, wordplay, and comedy routines of almost who's on first level of genius.
Look, I'm asking the questions. What's your name?
Willoughby Stan. No, that's my name.
Huh? Oh, huh? Oh, that's your name. Oh, I get it. See, yeah, Willoughby Stan.
No, I'm leaving shortly. I'm leaving shortly.
You said that you were Willoughby Stan.
I am. I'm leaving shortly.
So it only remains for me to pronounce sentence Count Duckula.
Pronounce away.
Sentence.
Oaks. Very nicely pronounced. Thank you. Goodbye. Goodbye. Come back! I can't stand anymore.
No, of course you can't stand anymore. We've tied you to the sacrificial altar and served you right.
Honestly, you could start an episode, not watch the screen at all, and you'd be just as entertained by simply listening to the dialogue. And that dialogue is brilliantly delivered by the voice cast, led by longtime British comedy staple David Jason as Duckula, who most of you would probably recognize as Albert and Rincewind in the TV adaptations of Terry Pratchett's Hogfather and The Color of Magic, respectively. Brian May's deadpan delivery and sonorous voice makes Igor a truly fun character, and you even begin to sympathize with him as he gets dragged on whatever harebrained adventure Duckula has in any given episode. Show writer Brian Truman provides the voice of Nanny, which just fits the character so well it's hard to imagine anyone else doing it. Rounding out the cast is Von Goosewing as longtime Cosgrove actor Jimmy Hibbert, who also wrote episodes of the show. In addition to those characters, aside from the occasional guest star like Ruby Wax, all 4 actors pretty much provide every single voice in the show, and every voice is clear and distinct with no muddying of who is supposed to be talking. And just to give things the appropriately sinister counterpoint to all this silliness going on is Barry Clayton as the show's narrator.
There you are, dear viewer. And here we are once again in the heart of vampire country, where even now we can hear the baleful banshee wail of one of the many demonic denizens of this dark and dreadful district.
The door, Nanny.
Count Duckula ran for 4 seasons and 65 episodes between 1988 and 1993. The entire series aired on ITV in the UK and Nickelodeon in the States. As far as impact goes, Count Duckula was pretty successful, even getting a short-lived Marvel comic under its Star Comics imprints that eventually started running a Danger Mouse as a backup feature. It was discontinued after 15 issues. In 2015, a revival of Danger Mouse was produced, and once again, Count Duckula appeared to take on the world's greatest secret agent. While once again a villain and obsessed with being a TV star, some aspects of the character from his own show were retained, such as being a vegetarian. Multiple VHS and DVD sets of Count Duckula were released in the UK, while over in the US, only the first season has ever been released on DVD. However, the entire series is available officially on the Count Duckula YouTube channel, and you can find a link to a playlist of the entire series in the description. Interestingly animated, fantastically voice-acted, and ludicrously funny, Count Duckula is one of the best British comedies you've never seen, and one of the best animated productions ever to cross the Atlantic to American TV screens. Watch this one. You'll die laughing. Next week, back to the US, and one of the more ubiquitous subsets of Saturday morning cartoons, the animated movie adaptation.
Good night out there, whatever you are.
If you